All right, what's up? We are back. It is the off-season of Behind the Seams presented by RipTydz, Oceanfront Grill, and Rooftop Bar. All right, welcome back to RipTydz. Welcome back to Behind the Seams. It is episode 1 of season 4, the off-season of the show. We are joined by a very special guest. That's Ryan Moore. I'm Hunter Horenstein, and that is the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Buddy Bailey, manager of the Myrtle Beach Pelicans. Hi, Buddy.
Hello, gentlemen.
So, Buddy, tell us, the season ended a month and a half ago. You're still in town. What's going on?
I enjoy Myrtle Beach. The weather's better than here back in Virginia, and you got the beach, you got golf courses, so if you're going to vacation after the season, why not stay in Myrtle Beach?
Amen to that.
It is a beautiful day on the third deck of RipTydz. Sun is shining, offshore breeze. Beaches are still somewhat popular right now. It is a beautiful, beautiful afternoon. No wonder Buddy is sticking around. We've got our bucket of beers here. We've off-season style, so we're not getting too crazy with the drinks yet. It's a long off-season. Got to pace ourselves. But we do have some questions for Buddy. We have some questions of our own for Buddy. And away we go here on season 4 of Behind the Seams. We'll get right into it, Buddy. It's postseason now. We're after the season. You've had some time to think about it. Give us your assessment of the 2022 season?
Well, overall, I think we had a really good year. We won the first half. We had a tremendous record, and we produced a lot of players that went up to South Bend. That's some of them did too good here because they got promoted, and that really hurt us the second half. But that's what the business is not what you do in the minor league. So, unfortunately, we didn't make a good run in the playoffs, but we had kind of lost most of our pitching, which was a big factor, and obviously your better hitters that left. But at the same time, those same kids left here. They were mentally, emotionally, and physically ready to go to the next level, and they ended up winning a championship there. It's kind of a joke, the South Bend Pelicans, but they won. And overall, for us, I thought it was a very solid year. And as an organization for the Cubs, it was. We had 3 teams make the playoffs, one here, South Bend, and then the AA club. So I'm sure a lot of people in the front office are pretty happy and satisfied with what's happened in the minor leagues this year. But the most important things, we had some players that moved up different levels during the season and proved that they were able to compete as good or better than some other guys in that next level up. And that's what you're looking for now. Hopefully when they get the opportunity to go from AAA to big leagues, they're as good or better than most of the other people are sending them.
So the fans want to know, do you think you deserve a championship ring from South Bend?
Nah, you know better than that. Luckily, I got one there a couple years ago. But
so they already know your size.
There are things you have to do. And if that's the case, then you'd be handing them out all over the place. But I think the coaching staff and as an organization, we did a really solid job this year, not only in South Bend to win the championship, but the rest of the minor league clubs.
Tennessee made the playoffs. Pelicans made the playoffs. South Bend obviously made the playoffs. And Iowa had a lot of players go up to contribute to the big league level. Talking about the playoffs, especially at this level where these are first-year, second-year guys who are first getting their taste of pro ball, how important is it for these young guys to have postseason success or get a taste of postseason baseball and playoff baseball?
I know everybody talks about develop players, don't worry about winning, develop players, but I really believe you have to develop winning players because in the big leagues, it's all about winning. And if they don't have a taste of it or some of the experience that it takes, the grind to be able to survive, especially playing those extra games at the end of the year. Like now the major leagues, we're talking the major league postseason starting. They're going through 162, and you might have to play, the way it's set up now, you might have to play another 20, 30 games to win it, somewhere in that neighborhood, 20-some. So all of a sudden in the minor leagues, you're adding that extra onus of what it takes emotionally, but also the length of the season and everybody gets tired. You can use that as an excuse. You can use that as a crutch. But everybody that's playing in that league is at the same amount of games as what you've been doing. It comes down to survival of the fittest mentally to me. And I think that's the one thing about baseball is survival of the fittest mentally. It's an everyday thing. Luckily, since COVID started, you do get every Monday off. It's a lot easier than it was 20, 30 years ago. You might play 40, 45 straight days in the minor leagues and you'd be begging for rainouts. Now with the new schedule, a lot of times you don't want rainouts because you don't want the doubleheader, knowing that when you get to Monday, you get the day off. So I really do think the days off have changed. It made it better for the players along with some other things. But going back to your original question, no doubt having to experience it. And I'm a big believer in the emotional maturity of players. It doesn't get discussed a lot. People talk about the physical and mental, but at the same time, the emotional part separates guys, especially when you go to AAA and see guys who dominate and really good at AAA. They go to the big house, which is the big leagues, and they can't function. And it usually comes down to the adrenaline rush or the fear of failure or whatever it is. That anxiety overwhelms them and they can't relax enough to play at the level that they know they can, but they just they can't because they limit themselves with not being emotionally mature enough.
How do you look, and you've been in the game a long time, buddy, but how do you assess a success with a ball club after a season?
Obviously, the ultimate success, nobody can ever question that you weren't successful, is winning the World Series or winning a league title, whatever the top carrot is that you can reach out there and grab as an athlete in college sports, pro sports, national title, to whatever league you're in, the highest one. To me, that's the ultimate achievement of success.
At the minor league level.
I don't know if you come up short, because I know relating to a league bigger than this, managing all those years in Venezuela, playing in luckily 9 finals and winning 6 championships out of like 15 years there or whatever. I never felt good about second place, even though a lot of the fans were somewhat, but at the same time, never 100% happy unless you had the ring on your finger that said league champs.
Let's talk about Venezuela a little bit. Tell us the biggest differences in the game down there and the game here.
Well, first of all, managing was like you in the big leagues. You didn't have restrictions on the pitchers, even though you had your own and you stayed within them. Like, for me, I always thought, all right, we're going to make the postseason. So I did it a little different than other managers. I never let a starting pitcher go over 90 pitches or 6 innings, knowing that if we're going to play January, like we're talking postseason, I want these guys to be solid. And every year people say, God, y'all's pitching is so much better than everybody's in January. Well, it was because we made sure we took care of them early in the year. And at the same time, you used your bullpen and had limits, like in your own mind, certain guys, 30 pitchers are going to get a day off, or how many innings, kind of under the guidelines here. But some of the veterans, I even had veterans because I was with the team so much, our best setup guy. I'd wake up in the mornings, 8:39, I had a text message saying, I'm good today, put me on the roster, because in Venezuela, you had a rotating roster. Here was set at 30 every night, whereas there you had 30, but you had extra guys that today, if 2 or 3 relievers or the starter pitch, tomorrow you're off and somebody else is going to be on the roster. So I knew, okay, I can pitch, let me know. But the fans down there, it was life and death when I first went. It's gotten a lot better for crowd control, but the first year, too, when I went, people are throwing firecrackers on the field, throwing stuff. You saw on a pretty much a nightly basis, or at least 4 or 5 times a week, people jumping over the stands, running out, hugging the girls, trying to kiss a certain player. But they picked up on the restrictions on that quite a bit now. But it was really every night the intensity is almost like the 7th game of the World Series, depending on who you're playing. Like, once, because when I first got there, that team had not won a championship in 29 years. So the first year we kind of like snuck by everybody, and then when we won, and then after that we had a target, and then Caracas, which is the big daddy, that and Magallanes, the team in Valencia, they were the 2 big names. And then over the time that I was there and the success we had, we made it a 3-team type deal, and we got in the mix with them. And so just being an evolution of an organization that hadn't won and being able to progress to become one of the biggest name teams in the country was quite a thrill. And luckily I was in the right place at the right time. My first year I got there, I was a 19-year-old kid that could really hit. Came back to the United States, I was managing AAA Pawtucket, and Mark Madaska, my hitting coach, I said, man, there's a kid down there really good, 19, is going to be a stud someday. And he kind of laughed like, who is it? I said, Miguel Cabrera. And he had only played A-ball. And then the next year, after that season, he came back and started in AA, went to the World, played with the Marlins, goes to the World Series. They win a World Series, and obviously people know who Miguel Cabrera is.
You would never say this, but before I ever met you and knew you were coming into town as our new manager, did a quick Google search, and you've been called the Joe Torre of Venezuela baseball, and the team that you manage would be the Yankees of Venezuela baseball.
Well, I don't know about all that, but they did tell me that I revolutionized the game with my managing style, with the way I handled the pitching down there and didn't do things that have been the way it's been. And a lot of teams now, I've noticed since then, they kind of migrated in to now. And then with the rule change, you got to face 3 hitters. That's a different entity. But back then, you just matched up hitter to hitter and to get to the main guys you wanted to have, which I thought was good because it took the workload off of your main guys, number one. And number two, you kept those other guys sharper that way. So if you did need them for longer stints, they were sharper and better to produce. It's hard to ask a pitcher to sit 3, 4, 5 days and then come in and ask him to produce to help the team. So I try to use them somewhat regular to keep them sharp, healthy, and happy. If you're doing that, you keep them happy too, which makes a good clubhouse.
Looking at the minor league systems, looking at minor league ball, there's a little bit of a balance between having to develop, like you said, and then also trying to play to win and teach these guys winning. How do you go about managing that balance, and how has that changed your managing style, if it has at all?
I don't know. I think there's times when they know you're disciplined. This is the guidelines we're all going to function within. But at the same time, you have fun and make jokes when you have the right opportunities to loosen up and lighten up the moments. But at the same time, when we're between the lines for practice, we're doing it the right way. We're busting our butt 100%. And then when the game starts, that carries over to what we need to do. And I think I'm a big believer in this 4 categories. That somewhere you got to find it to motivate them. Motivation creates intensity. Intensity creates concentration, and concentration will prepare proper preparation. So to me, if I can find a way to get the first thing, the rest fall in line. But if you don't have the motivation, none of them happen. So therefore, you don't practice properly, and you will never perform at the level that you can be, or the max you can.
How much fun did you have managing that first half team? It seemed like they'd go out and just business as usual.
We found ways. We had really good starting pitching. We had some guys in the bullpen, and we had some kids that really liked to play and really wanted to win. And I think the biggest accomplishment was the 3 days in Kannapolis when Charleston was a game behind. We felt like they weren't going to lose a game, and we had to. And our kids were down all 3 of those games, and some of them down multiple runs, 4 and 5. But they didn't give up. We came back. We found a way to win. I think the baseball gods were with us too, because I remember one of those games, it was a twilight out that they missed. In the twilight, we ended up getting 3 runs later in the inning, which was huge to win the game. So, but luck is the residue of design. If you, like, I go back to the proper preparation. If you do it, luck goes your way.
Yeah, it was definitely that feeling, because we got to watch it. We reaped the benefits of it, and certainly our fans coming through and finding us in the concourse saying this is the most fun that they've ever seen the team have on the field. This is the most talent. You know, it almost became something like, if the team was down in the late innings, just wait a little bit longer, because that big inning was coming, or that 8th inning, that 9th inning rally was coming, because this team was just never out of a ball game.
Well, if you were a fan that, okay, they're down 4 in the 6th, let's leave, and next day you read the paper, you kick yourself in the butt, well, why did I leave?
It happened a couple of times. There's a couple of fans that were like, man, I can't believe they scored 4 in the 9th and we missed a great game. All right, so we've got some questions as well that we had on Twitter. People asked on Twitter. So we'll go ahead and ask those as more gets another one. Another Corona. It's warm out here too. We got to cool down. All right. So, buddy, your good friend Sam Wiederhalf on Twitter, he wants to know, can you give him some golf tips?
I did give him some golf tips. I'm curious to see him play again, to see how it was. When I played with him, he had a lot of miscues, but I told him I'd help him with a couple of things. And I met him over here at the golf course and did some things guys a long time ago gave me some simple tips, so I gave them to him. So we'll see if it helps his game tonight. It might be even worse after my help, but time will tell.
What's the biggest thing he has to work on?
A lot, like most of us, is the takeaway. I think most of us as golfers, that takeaway, when we pull the club back, we put ourselves in a really bad spot. So therefore, we're always trying to recover or miss hitting the ball.
I've been told I need to just concentrate from tee to green. Everything in between.
Well,
it needs
so
work.
the entire game.
The entire game.
I've seen Ryan play. He needs to practice hard every day for 3 weeks, sell his club, and get a tennis racket.
He's not wrong. It's harder to hold a beverage while playing tennis, though. So we may have to find some.
There's
some
not
other
as many
transition.
opportunities to get your transfusion on the tennis court either.
It's just not as socially acceptable to be boozing while playing tennis, I guess. So.
The broadcasters.
And there's no golf courts on the tennis court either,
No.
right?
The broadcasters, and especially at the minor league level, they're pretty much infused with your team. Talk about your relationship with Sam, maybe some of our previous broadcasters that we've had, or previous broadcasters at the minor league level, guys that are in some ways a lot like the players, where they're trying to get that experience, trying to craft and hone their craft, and ultimately move on up.
Well, he's definitely thorough and does what he's supposed to be doing to do his job professionally. He's there every day. I think he lives and dies and really feels an emotional closeness to the club, which I think to be really good at it, you have to feel some closeness like you're part of the club, which he brings. And I know he does local. He works out at Coastal. He does local high school. So it's good in a way if you're going to further your career in anything that he does other sports that bring it back to baseball. But I enjoyed my time with Sam. Actually, after the season, staying around here some, played golf with him, like I said, been around him and been out to have some dinners, liquid dinners along the way with him. So we've gotten a lot closer relationship than most guys who are the play-by-play guy and the managers just by the time I've spent around after the season.
I mean, it's funny that you say that he lives and dies by the team, because he truly, there is no bigger cheerleader, and I mean that in the best way possible. He absolutely had a ball this year, and he would come down and he was jazzed up. We listened to him on the radio, and I know that he enjoyed it, and I think he realizes the kind of talent and the kind of people that he got to watch play ball this year.
To your point, his natural reactions to positive plays on the field, just the things that come out of nowhere, he is emotionally invested in the success of the team, and like you said, that's that enthusiasm
exactly.
to get to that next
Think
step.
about the odds of a guy getting to do 2 no-hitters in the same season. We had 2 no-hitters. A broadcaster may do at most a number of years and never get to do the first one. To get 2 in a year is a phenomenal thing for a guy to be able to announce it like he was able to do.
All right, Elijah Smith on Twitter. He wants to know, what is your favorite part of being a manager?
Ooh.
That's a tough question. Competition.
I think when you're the people that manage, or like Ryan does with the Pelicans here, there is competition in so many different forms. And when you say competition, most people are going to think, oh, it's the game at 7 o'clock. There's competition to tap each individual player to a degree, find a way to tap them like a one-on-one basis. Then you have to have a competition to figure out what's the best with me as an umbrella over everybody, which would be the whole team. Then obviously competition to realize with yourself as the instructor, really, head teacher, what are we going to do in pregame practice to help everybody get better? And then the easiest part to me is actually 7 o'clock, the competition at 7 o'clock, because the game's going to kind of take care of itself and what you should and shouldn't do. But all of that other stuff to get to that point is so many different decisions to be made. And really, when you have to make decisions, that's really competition within yourself to make the right one. So I think it's the thrill of all of those decisions that have to be made, which I call competition.
And funny, we were talking about broadcasters, because we do have another one from another former broadcaster. Remember Scott Kornberg from a couple years ago? Yeah. So Scotty K on Twitter wants to know.
He's down in Jacksonville still?
Yes, Jacksonville. Shout out to the Jack Shrimp.
How nice is that, though, as a broadcaster or radio, that it's AA and then they realign and you not only are still there, but you get bumped up to AAA level just by realignment.
He got to do some Marlin spring training games.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Get bumped up
And he hasn't left the beach.
Yeah, he just gets more warmer weather.
Exactly.
Scotty K wants to know, how successful was your bullpen vegetable garden this season? What did you end up growing? And he also wants to know why Scott Kornberg, and I'm assuming this is an inside joke between you two, he also wants to know why Scott Kornberg is the worst radio broadcaster ever.
I don't know. I'm sure I said a joke to him about that, and I don't even remember. But in my garden, I had chili peppers, jalapeno peppers, some regular bell peppers, and tomato plants. We're actually still getting a few chilies and jalapenos out of it.
What's the genesis? What started the idea of growing a garden at the ballpark?
Well, I saw the space. I figured, hey, this is a good little hobby or habit to have. After BP at home, we get done at 5. You got a couple hours for game, hour and a half basically for game time. Go piddle around 10 minutes. So coming out of Arizona, we have that first days off before we start getting up with the responsibilities for the club. Go out there, clear the spot, go get some dark, dirt, pot and soil, put it in, buy the plants, and throw it in the ground. That's my first day in Myrtle Beach job every year.
So Myrtle Beach is the only place that you've grown a garden?
I've had some plants, but actually around the ballpark having a spot like that, you get some 5-gallon buckets you can put some things in. If somebody wanted to grow something on the back porch, get a 5-gallon bucket, drill some holes about this far from the bottom, put your dirt, put your plant, and then when you water it, when you see the water coming back out of the hose, you got enough water. That's what it used to be. But I'd much rather do what I'm doing here instead of, on a porch or something.
Well, in the event that you come back to Myrtle Beach next year, and as we've professed to you privately, we hope that you do, maybe we have to add a new menu item to our concessions operation, and it'll be like the Buddy's Bells. And it's like it's a burger with some peppers on it, and we'll cut you into the profits. Profits.
Mate, up for that.
So, Buddy, you got to witness probably one of the best games at Pelicans Ballpark this season, with a start time around 10 o'clock Sunday night, following a back-to-back homestand between the Pelicans full-time staff and the intern seasonal staff. Did you see an ounce of talent on that field?
Maybe 1 gram.
A gram.
Maybe at most.
To be fair, you were all the way on the warning track. There's no way you could have.
I was entertaining. When I heard you guys were playing, I said, let me go out here and see. So that's why I bought the little camping grill I got. And
there was a truck out there. You had a whole tailgate going with chairs and everything.
A makeshift table. Yeah. We had a grill going. We had food, drinks.
That was a pretty long night after y'all finished, but that was entertaining. I wish y'all did that once a month. I enjoyed it, actually, as a fan watching.
Buddy, as you head off into the off season and kind of look towards next year, when do you start thinking about next season?
Well, first, I haven't talked to, as we speak, I haven't talked to the Cubs where I will manage next year. That's the first thing. And then once you do, you kind of take a little bit more breath, and then you start looking at who you think may be your players and pitchers for the next year. But I used to be obsessed with that big time as a young man starting out managing, but you have no control over it, and it doesn't matter. Whatever 30 guys, whatever city, whatever 30 guys, or number of players that roster allows, you just wait until they say, all right, this is what you got. Go do what you can do. It's like playing poker in a way. What 30 cards am I going to get? I don't know. You just got to see what you get, and then sometimes you got to bluff to win. Sometimes you got the best hand to win. So just see what strategy you got to do to find a way to get it done.
It's a lot of fun having you at the beach. It's been a lot of fun watching you manage as well. Like Moore said, at this time of recording, we don't know what next season is going to look like, but always a pleasure. And this season, I think, was maybe some of the most fun that we've been able to have here at Pelicans Ballpark.
And what I've said,
the crowds. Well, first, to me, enjoying the season, winning, you got to have your share with. But I think the crowd brings so much of an importance to the players and the atmosphere and the emotion. And the fans were really absolutely awesome this year. And they came out in droves. There was a lot of folks at the games every night. But just the energy level. And most nights, not a lot of people left. Whereas in the past, being here or other cities, you get to a certain point and leave. But this year, a lot of people rode it out to the end, which is saying obviously the product here was pretty good. And they're into baseball here in Myrtle Beach.
You've always been a consummate professional with us, and your understanding and appreciation for what we do on the other side of the white lines is a joy to work with. Your model should be replicated by all, but it's done by few, and we thank you, and I truly mean it, for everything that you do for us here in Myrtle, and I know that sentiment is felt not just here, but around baseball. So thank you for what you've done for us, what you've done for the game, and cheers and best of luck with everything moving forward.
All right, thank you.
For Ryan Moore, for Buddy Bailey, I'm Hunter Horenstein. This has been Behind the Scenes, presented by RipTydz Oceanfront Grill and Rooftop Bar.